My name is Silas. I'm 38 and I'm a full-time writer.
I'm Jason Howard. I'm 28 and I am a full-time writer and editor.
Jason Howard and Silas House, authors of the book Something's Rising, came to Pellissippi State as part of October's Common Book Experience.
Well, the first thing they do, and one of the more troubling things to me, is that they come in and they push down all the trees and they pile them up and they burn the trees. They don't take the time to harvest them. Then they begin to take off layers of topsoil and get down to a relatively thin seam of coal. But it's much cheaper for them to mine coal this way because they use less workers, more machines. They push this topsoil and rocks and dirt and the worst grade of coal off into the valley where the two mountains meet and they form a valley fill. And this stops a lot of drainage. It changes the whole entire contour of the mountain range, and that's why we have a lot of widespread flooding and things like that. And so a plateau has been created, which by law is supposed to be turned into usable land, but often it's not made usable. In most cases, it's not even reclaimed, and it's left, and it won't support hardwood, doesn't have topsoil.
Tennessee is the next state to be affected by mountaintop removal mining. We have seen it start to creep in up in Claiborne County, Campbell County, and probably the most infamous site in Tennessee is Zeb Mountain around Jellicoe. So yes, the coal industry has its sights set on East Tennessee.
Tennessee has been spared so far from mountaintop removal, mostly because it doesn't have as much coal as the other Appalachian states where so much of it happens, but also because of so much of the industry in Tennessee depends on tourism. And the Great Smoky Mountains it's the most visited national park in the nation, and so it's really shooting yourself in the foot to tear down the mountains so that people are going to have to see all this devastation on the way to the Smoky Mountains, which are fortunately protected. And so they're lobbying like crazy to try to be able to do that more. And so far the Tennessee legislature has been more protective of their mountains than other Appalachian states. And it's because they're able to make money off of them, big money. And in lots of parts of Appalachia, the only way to make big money off the mountains is to tear them down.
Well, I think that the Kingston coal ash spill has had an enormous impact on the anti-mountaintop removal movement. We saw in the first few days of the spill and afterwards so many news stories and media coverage and pictures of the hardships that the spill created, and so and that was a result of mountaintop removal mining. Most of the coal that goes to the Kingston plant is mountaintop removal coal. It's a lower grade, and then they have to store the ash, and so it has become a rallying point and a rallying cry for the anti-mountaintop removal movement to say this is what can happen when we do mountaintop removal mining. We often hear people on the other side of the fight standing up so strongly and so heatedly for the coal industry, and they have no connection to coal. And I think that a lot of times that they have bought into the coal industry line and the rhetoric that coal provides jobs and you know, it will be a disaster for the region's economy if mountaintop removal is banned. And so how we try to fight against that is, you know, with the facts, and to say that mountaintop removal takes away jobs, that we come from a deep mining family, that our roots with the coal industry and in the region are deep, and that you know, we can do other types of coal mining instead of mountaintop removal.
This book started because Jason and I had gone to a lot of community meetings where people would come in and testify about how they were suffering because of mountaintop removal. And they would just tell these horrible stories. One of the first stories that really affected me was a woman who was telling us that she had to buy enough bottled water to bathe her child in. So it was bad enough she couldn't drink her water, but she couldn't even bathe her baby in it. That's how dirty her water was. Yet she had gone to the coal mine, to the coal company, and they just told her it wasn't her fault. She proved that it was their fault, went to the law, they didn't do anything, went to her representatives in the government, they didn't do anything. So she was in a last-ditch effort, and so she came to the artists of Kentucky, writers, musicians, photographers, and asked us to help tell her story. And there were lots of other people there that night. There was a man who came in and talked about how his grandchildren wouldn't stay all night with him because the company blasted throughout the night, and they stayed scared that rocks were going to roll through the house and kill them. And people who had had to replace their well 7 times in 1 year because the aquifers would go dry because of blasting. So many people who just felt like nobody was listening to them. They felt invisible. And to me, that was really bothersome because I grew up in a rural place, a place of poverty, and people who are rural and poverty-stricken, well, no matter where you are, if you're poor, you feel invisible. You feel like people are not listening to you. So we felt like that responsibility had been put on our shoulders to help tell their story since we had that opportunity to do that. And we were going to write a big feature for a magazine about it, but we decided it was too big a story for that, so we had to do a book. And we devoted about 2 years to doing it. We would go around and listen to people who were speaking out against it and get to know more of their stories. And we picked the more powerful and interesting of 13 people out of many, many people that we wish we could have done. We just couldn't fit all the people we wanted to into one book.
Well, I think that people in the mountains have pointed to God's will and become fatalistic for so long. You know, they've just said, well, this is what's meant to happen. You know, a lot of people might say, well, the Lord's coming back soon anyway. He's going to create a new heaven and a new earth, so we don't have to take care of this one. So to counteract that, you know, we point a lot of times to Scripture that is based around creation care and an environmental stewardship that calls us to care for the earth. When we approach these politicians, what we're doing is just asking them to be responsible, and responsibility should have no party line. We've seen people from both sides of the aisle exhibit extraordinary political courage. We've seen Senator Alexander from Tennessee, a Republican. He has joined with Senator Ben Cardin of Maryland, a Democrat, to restore some language to the Clean Water Act that would benefit people and places in Appalachia, that would protect our streams. And so people like that are important, who are willing, you know, to put aside these labels and to reach across the aisle and do the right thing.
The best place to find information on this issue is ilovemountains.org, where it's sort of a gathering of all the people who are fighting against mountaintop removal. This is an issue that doesn't know any kind of party lines. It doesn't matter if politicians are Republicans or Democrats. It's more about how many coal lobbyists have gotten to them and how willing they are to stand up for what's right and be brave and sort of go against the status quo and do what they got in office to do to begin with, which was to properly represent the people. So when I go and lobby up in D.C. and at my state capitol, I always just ask the representatives to be brave and to be a hero and to stand up and say, this is wrong, and this is a case of big corporations having all the rights of individuals but none of the responsibilities. And that's not fair, and it's not right, and it's what our representatives are put there for, to stand up and point out when something is unjust.